Hey everyone, it's Michael Piles, the president of the Halter Group. At Halter, we're passionate about educating and assisting our community in creating generational wealth through real estate. Our mission is to help you win and achieve your fullest potential so you can redefine wealth for yourself. That's why we're beyond excited to return as the presenting sponsor for Redefining Wealth Live 2024. This event aligns perfectly with our values of education, transformation, and growth. And we can't wait to connect with like-minded, like-hearted individuals committed to redefining their wealth and living purpose-driven lives. See you in Atlanta this October.
Healing is a series of decisions, choices, practices, habits, behaviors that lead to you becoming who you are meant to be.
I'm Patrice Washington, and this is the Redefining Wealth podcast, where authenticity leads to alignment and abundance. Join us each week as we peel back the layers on what wealth truly means and dive into conversations that inspire, connect, and empower you to live your richest life. Get ready to challenge the status quo. It's time to redefine wealth for yourself. You're listening to the Redefining Wealth podcast with Patrice Washington, and this is the space that you come to every week to learn what it means to chase purpose, not money. So you caught us in the midst of this theme, which is make space for healing. And healing has just been so heavy on me. I just feel like I have been in such a healing journey over these last few years in particular. And I've really been attracting so many powerhouse women in particular in my life who speak to this idea of healing. And you really don't realize how much you need it. You know, there's a quote that we say here often. It's not my original quote, but what we share is your business is only going to grow to the extent you're willing to heal. And it is so imperative that we give ourselves permission to heal in so many places of our lives. Much of it is conscious, but then there's a lot that is subconscious. And I had an opportunity to get an early copy of Nakeia Homer's book, Habits for Healing. This book is rat-a-tattered because it has been all over with me from Mexico to Seattle to California and back. It's about reclaiming your purpose, peace, and power. This conversation is going to be such a defining moment in your healing journey if you allow it to. Just allow yourself to be open. Allow yourself to receive Nikia. This woman is brilliant, and I'm just so grateful to have the honor of calling her a friend. As a former counselor and social worker, Nakeia Homer has helped thousands of people see that the journey from surviving to thriving begins with your habits. In her new book, Habits for Healing, she sheds light on simple, powerful acts that move us toward healing and help us to escape patterns of burnout, toxic relationships, and emotional exhaustion. Drawing on her work, guiding others, and her own experiences of healing from a traumatic childhood, Nikia helps readers find healing in their everyday rhythms. The next voice you hear after the affirmation of the week will be that of Nakeia Homer. This week's affirmation is, I am creating habits for my healing. I am committed to creating daily habits that support and accelerate my healing journey. Each action I take is a step towards wholeness as I intentionally choose practices that nurture my mind, body, and spirit. I embrace consistency, knowing that small, positive habits lead to profound transformation over time. I trust in the power of these rituals to restore my balance, my harmony, and bring peace and vitality into my life. As I cultivate these healing habits, I honor my journey and the progress that I make each and every day. Declare with me today, I am creating habits for my healing. Welcome back to the Redefining Wealth podcast, Nikia.
Thank you. I'm so very excited and grateful to be here with you and your community.
Girl, I'm so excited. I'm really grateful for us being reunited, reconnected. If you were at Redefining Wealth Live, in particular as a VIP ticket holder, then you got to experience some of the brilliance of my super friend, Nakeia Homer, already.
Mm-hmm.
But for those who haven't heard your previous podcast episode or didn't get a chance to meet you at Redefining Wealth Live last year, catch us up on who Nakeia Homer is in this season.
Let me just say, that was an amazing experience for me. I got to witness your community firsthand, how they just love on you, how you pour into them, how they pour into each other. And ever since then, I've had people reaching out from your community saying that they know me because of you. So I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful to witness your work the way that I did. So yeah, it's been almost a year now, right? I can't believe it, but around that time, I was finishing up my book and submitting it and getting into the edits of Habits for Healing. I was preparing to send my oldest daughter, my only daughter, off to her first year of college. I was pouring into my son who was transitioning from my baby into his preteens and now a teenager. And so life has just been really full. And having you and the rest of our super friends with me on this journey over the past year almost now has been so helpful. So that's me working, mothering, and connecting.
Oh, yes. And for those that don't know, at Redefining Wealth Live, we did a panel called Super Friends. And I just wanted to thank all of these incredible, brilliant women with their own full plates and huge platforms who showed up for me when I said, hey, I need support and I would love to have you at Redefining Wealth Live. And that was a one-time dinner in October of 2023, just to say thank you. And it was so beautiful. And we had such a good time together that all of these amazing women, we now meet up for brunch, for dinner. We're going to a live event coming up here soon. Every other month, we still make time to connect and get together. And so even though I met you like a decade ago, I think when I was a blogger, we met somewhere. But I'm so grateful that in this season, we get to actually like be in community. I would say being in community has been a big part of me making space for healing. That is a part of our theme for this month at Redefining Wealth. It's about making space for healing. And even when you hear me say that, what does that mean to you, making the space to heal?
I think about intention. One of the things that I've been saying for years and had a lot of pushback on, a lot of lack of understanding around this. So I had to be very strategic about how I would relay this message is that healing is a series of decisions, choices, practices, habits, behaviors that lead to you becoming who you are meant to be. And so it's one of those things that I treat just like I do personal development. I treat just like a personal goal. I treat like a job. I clock into it. And so when you say making space for healing, I'm thinking about intentions. I'm thinking about the practices, the habits, and literally just carving out space in my life to do this healing work.
Girl, you literally have to carve out space. You have to be deliberate about it. Just even in the introduction of Habits for Healing. So let me tell y'all, I had a galley, which is the sample copy of Nikia's latest book, Habits for Healing, Reclaim Your Purpose, Peace, and Power. And you know, I was all over it, right? So I get the book. I happen to be leaving to go to Mexico, I believe was my first trip. Baby, when I tell you this book is rat-a-tatted, it has all kinds of green underline. Y'all can't see it, but I'm going to show Nikia. It is marked in. I answer the questions. I literally have been doing the work alongside this book. And I had to text my friend and say, you did that. This is brilliant. And not just because she's my super friend. I only invite people on the podcast when I truly believe in the work or the message. And as much as I've been in this practice of healing and thinking about healing and being as intentional as possible, you really changed the game for me. because I had not read or experienced someone making it so plain. I feel like you demystify what it means to be on the journey of healing, especially at the beginning where you're just talking about the reclaiming your purpose. And, you know, purpose is my favorite thing. I have on my Chase Purpose sweatshirt, right? Like when you talk about reclaiming your purpose, you start with just self-care. And you talk about self-care in a way that I had never heard before. How does self-care lend to healing? And what are the habits that you speak about self-care from? Because it's very different than what we hear often.
Yeah. First of all, your words got me all emotional. And I know you are being very genuine because you would not say it if it wasn't true. But everything that I was intending to do with the book, you just confirmed for me. If no one else says another word about it, I am good. I'm good. But one of the things that I set out to do with each of the habits is to create a conversation that we weren't having around it, to come with my personal perspective, because the conversations are so rich and we all have so many layers to our lives, so many unique experiences where sometimes things get lost. And so one of the things that I thought was lost in this conversation around self-care is that, and I just posted about this on social media, depending on when you are listening to this, you can go check it out. But we always talk about self-care being something that we do so that we can do for others, right? Pour into your cup so that you have enough to pour into others. And that is true. I feel like when you are caring for yourself, other people benefit from it as a byproduct of your self-care, but it's not the central focus of it. Self-care is for you. And so in the book, I talk about how self-care has been a struggle for me because my introduction to it was well into, adulthood. I had spent the first half of my life thinking that my sole purpose was to care for others and to do what I needed to do to be strong enough, worthy enough, valuable enough for other people, right? And so I titled this chapter about how it heals our relationship with worthiness, because I really want us to start focusing on self-care for ourselves, right? I want to start focusing on not just the makeup, not just the spa days, not just the brunches with friends, although they add to our well-being. I want to talk about our heart a little bit more. I want to talk about how we spend time with ourselves in a way that feels good and not lonely. Taking time out of your day every single day when you don't have the weekend or the money to spend on self-care. I take a drive in the car.
Girl,
After dinner.
that was the thing that got me. I had never thought about the time that I may just sit in the car in the driveway when I first get home and I don't necessarily want to go in the house. I just have that moment to sit. I had never considered that as self-care. And I love when you just talked about how normal everyday routines could actually be turned into moments of self-care, because self-care is a habit that simply enhances our overall well-being. Right. And taking that extra time to drive around and get lost in your own thoughts, or pray, or sing to the top of your lungs, or have a good cry while you're driving, or to work things out in your mind. That is self-care. And we've only been fed that it's a manicure and pedicure. It's like, no, there are ways to do this every day.
Yeah. We need to make self-care accessible, and we need to make it a lifestyle. I needed to make it a lifestyle, because if I didn't, I'd be waiting for a birthday. I'd be waiting for a vacation. I'd be waiting for the weekend. If I think about it as the daily practices I do to support my well-being, then a lot of my life becomes self-care. It's all about mindfulness.
Oh, you know what really impacted me as well was how you spoke about not feeling like you could take time for yourself because of the example of your grandmother. I really resonated with that. I think a lot of us may resonate with that. You talked about how she did all of these things at the expense of her own well-being. You said that woman taught me about love. She taught me about God. She taught me about being of service to others and so many other beautiful things. She just taught me nothing about self-care. So for years, I internalized that helping others was defined by giving up everything you had and just going as hard as you can.
Yeah. I always talk about how, we grew up in the projects. My grandmother made about 14 to 20 cents too much to qualify for food stamps. So we were struggling to eat. And my grandma would give our food and her money to neighbors who needed food, and she would eat whatever. Like that was literally my grandma. She would feed whomever with whatever she had and go without. And I'm like, when I get older, I'm like, Grandma, you got diabetes, you got heart, high blood pressure, you've had strokes, you need your food. The neighbors will be okay, but her mindset was, if I got it, they have it. If someone else needs it, I'm going to give it. And I love that about her, right? Even now, as she transitioned, people talk about how they were fed spiritually, emotionally, and physically by her. So that's her legacy. But she also had a legacy of being unhealthy. I talk about how she was mean to me. And I know it was because she lacked sleep. She lacked therapy. She lacked care and consideration of herself. And when I got that, I was very young. And I'm glad I did, because it stopped me from resenting her. And I was able to show empathy to her, the same empathy I need today when I don't take care of myself. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that we need to like my good sis says, redefine our definitions of wealth, of health, of supporting others so that it includes our well-being.
Something that really spoke to me as well. I mean, this whole book, again, I just can't say it enough. This whole book, as you talked about speaking to your daughter about if there was anything that she thought you could do differently. And I think a lot of us, when we come from backgrounds, as Dr. Tama says, many of the women who raised us didn't have the luxury of healing. So like your grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, my aunts, they didn't have the luxury or awareness of therapy. They didn't have access to all of these books and podcasts and all of the language that we have today. And so we are aware that something needs to change. And then many of us set out to be the perfect moms. And so we start to perform even for our children. And we're like, I have to be at all the things. I need to be, at the games, at the debates, at the presentations. I need to cart you around everywhere. I need to do all the things for you while also demonstrating to you that it's okay to move me down the list. And you talk about a moment that you had with your daughter and something that she said to you. And this was so good. You said, I asked her if there was anything she thought I could do differently or better. She was 11 or 12 years old at the time, and I expected her to say, you could buy me more things or you could take me more places. But instead, my brilliant human being of a child said, you could be less selfless. Like, you don't have to sacrifice everything all the time.
Yeah, I write about how I literally was like, what? What? It caught me off guard. One of the things that I do as a parent to check in with my kids is I ask them, are they okay? Are you okay? Do you need anything? Can I do anything? Whatever. And so I was expecting her to give me one of those answers about how I can be better as a mother, but not from the perspective of taking better care of myself. She was young and saw that I was being a martyr for her, that I was essentially projecting my trauma of not having that traditional relationship with my mother onto her and asking me to mirror positive well-being. And let me just tell you, my daughter don't play about self-care. I don't know if she had a conversation with herself and said, I'm going to do better like I eventually did with my grandma. But even as recent as last night, we're at dinner. There's one piece of chicken tender left, and I want it, and she wanted it. And I'm like, oh, you can have it. Sis grabbed it. I said, you're not even going to cut it in half? She said, you asked me. In that case, she asked me to make sure that I was cared for. But once again, I'm like, oh, you can have it. Then I'm like, well, cut that in half. But I love that for her. I love she didn't internalize that toxic idea of self-sacrifice as the only way to be a good parent.
Yeah. I see it with Reagan too, girl. Reagan is so clear and so confident and so willing to communicate her needs, wants, and desires. She minces no words. And what I love about it is she doesn't find clarity offensive. She doesn't even assume that being clear is going to be offensive. She is just about her business.
Right.
And I constantly, first of all, it humbles me daily. Okay. First of all, it humbles me daily. But second of all, it makes me so proud because I often think to myself, if she could communicate her needs, wants, and desires in this way, if she can say, get up from the table and say, hey, I just need some time to myself tonight. I'm going to go take a bath and then I'm going to bed. She's not worried about offending us. Oh, we wanted to have a game night. If sis is not feeling it, she is very comfortable saying, let's reschedule that. This is what I need. And I honor her for that because Nikia, I just think about how much of my life was spent sacrificing, knowingly and unknowingly, doing things I didn't want to do, showing up in spaces I did not want to show up in, tolerating and accepting behavior that I knew was beneath me, walking on eggshells, straddling the fence with people when my no could have just been my no, all the things. And I get to watch what it looks like to practice my healing out loud for the benefit of my own child so that she knows, because that's required me to have boundaries with her too, though. It's required me to say, no, I'm not coming to that thing because I need this time or space, and recognizing that that didn't make me a bad mom. It made me a mom who could show up even better when I am present.
Right. And you see that intersection that I love with self-care and boundaries. We often talk about boundaries outside of self-care. And then often we talk about boundaries inside of self-care, right? But there's definitely an intersection there where your self-care can look like a boundary. You may not need to go to the spa this weekend. You may need to say no before you do anything else with your life. And that is self-care.
Yeah, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to get to do this work and see our young women in our lives, because we know that they're modeling us. They are. And being intentional about this in every way, man, is such a blessing. So a part of self-care that you talk about is being able to let go. Like you go through the habit of editing your life, and you talk about how letting go heals. Oh, heals our relationship. So when we are making the space for healing, why is releasing such a big part? Because, that's the part we want to avoid. I want to heal, but I don't want to let people go. I don't want to let things go. I don't want to let habits go. I just want to heal, Nikia. Why is releasing? Why you keep talking about letting stuff go?
One, I love how you already caught the idea of using the word release as opposed to just letting go. I mean, we could say whichever makes us comfortable. Sometimes the word release makes us more comfortable. And when I looked up the definition of release, I was like, yeah, this is going to be better for me, because it simply means to withdraw your hold on something, to withdraw something from confinement, to literally, I don't think I included this in the book, but whenever I think about letting go, I think about opening my hands and just allowing whatever's in it to do what it needs to do. Sometimes when we release our attachment to things, they don't go anywhere. They lean in, they move closer, they feel better. It was the attachment that was the issue and not the thing, right? And then sometimes we let go, and the thing is like, thank God, let me get out of here. And then guess what else is thanking God? The thing that was waiting in the wings to come into your life in the first place. It is a blessing when I let go. It is for a purpose. But I have empathy because I realize that it's not always the thing that gets us, the relationship, the job, the money, the title, whatever. It's all of the things that came along with it, the story of the relationship, how the relationship healed some of the trauma we had about our own family separating, in that picture we have in our mind of what success. When we let go of the person, we're also letting go of that. And that makes it difficult, right?
Yeah. And the Redefining Wealth community, in particular in the Institute. So in Pillar Mastery and Mastery Momentum is where I do spotlight coaching every month. And I remember having a conversation with one of our clients about the willing to lose list. And I'm constantly having to remind them, and that's what this work is about. It's about repetition and integration. Like you just go over and over and over again. But I was talking to a client who was talking about a relationship that she released as well as a position. And I said, it seems like you are only embracing the piece of the willing to lose list of like the thing and not necessarily accepting that you will have to grieve the mindsets, the beliefs, the behaviors that were associated with the thing. So you can say, I know I need to get out of this relationship. But if you haven't actually given yourself an opportunity to process, what did I make marriage mean? How did I hold the title of wife? What good girl, good wife, good Christian wife stories do I have and that I'm leaning into, beliefs that I have about that? It's not just the physical separation of the thing. You're still grieving everything else that you attach to it. And that, I think, is really the process that allows us to see whatever we are releasing, we understand this is not a one-time event. All these other things are going to keep coming with it. When I released my marital home, I had to still deal with all the other things I had associated with that home. When I released the marriage or any number of things, the title America's Money Maven. Okay, I was very known for that. It was a very profitable moniker to have, but when it no longer felt aligned, this was the thing too, you said in the book, I want to make sure I say, there are times in life when we must let go of things that may not be bad, but may be a hindrance to our greater good. Girl, America's Money Maven was not bad. It was amazing. It was a very highly successful and recognizable brand in the marketplace. And when it no longer felt aligned, I had to release it. I had to stop trying to hold on to that in order for God to really like put all this other stuff in my hand. You are more than money. You are here to share this message of well-being as well. The message is so much bigger than just that pillar. I want you to talk about these other things. And when I was trying to hold on, will I still be respected in media? Will I still get booked to speak? These are real questions that we ask ourselves, and we have to ask ourselves, or I would say be honest about what is coming up when it is time to release something and deal with that too. It wasn't just the name. It was all the things I associated with the name. It wasn't just the marriage. It was all the things I associated with the marriage. It wasn't just the house, all the stuff I associated. That is where so much healing has to be done as well.
We totally get it. That, and like you said, we release sometimes in seasons or in stages or in doses. So I remember having a conversation with the client who was like, I thought I was over him and I thought I had moved on. But it was like one more thing that she didn't do, which was figure out how to make sure she didn't get the emails. So it's like we let go of the text. We let go of the phone calls. We let go of the dinners. And now he's in your inbox. It doesn't mean that you're not healing and that you're not letting go because you responded or replied. It just means this is another layer of releasing that you need to lean into. And so that's another thing about letting go. People think that they are failing at it. So then they go back like, oh, I knew I shouldn't have let go. I'm not making the money from the new job yet. You're 5 minutes into it. And now you're regretting your decision about closing the other. Right? You're 5 minutes into the process of healing something that you were in for 15 years. You have to allow yourself the grace of experiencing the process of letting go.
Hey, Purpose Chaser, I've got some great news. If you are ready to experience the transformation you've been craving for, it's not too late to still join me in Atlanta, October 7th and 8th for Redefining Wealth Live 2024. This is where purpose, prosperity, and personal growth all come together. Over these days together, you will hear from incredible speakers, connect with like-hearted people who are just as committed to living fully as you are, and gain tools that'll help you shift from where you are to where you were truly meant to be. If you're serious about taking control of your life and creating wealth and well-being, You deserve this experience. Head to redefiningwealthlive.com for all the details and to grab your ticket. That's redefiningwealthlive.com. It's not too late, and I can't wait to see you there. You kind of drop these little hard truths throughout the book. And one of them you said is, sometimes it's you. I said, oh, you know this, my friend. This is a good gut punch. We love a good a good gut punch is the only thing that sometimes wakes us up. You said hard truth. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes you are the cause, the reason for your own struggle. If you look only outside of yourself, you will be blind to the power you have on the inside of you to transform your own life. Why you come for us like this?
You know what? That is from the chapter on accountability, right? So there are 7 habits, and personal accountability is one of them. This was one of the first things I got, honestly, on my journey of personal accountability, because I'm like, okay, if it's in my hand, if it's in my view, if it's my fault, then I'm also responsible for fixing it. It's in my control, right? And so when I look at personal accountability or understanding that it's me, I'm like, great. If it's me, I can fix me. I can change me. I can alter me. I can pray about me. You know, I can create habits around me. It's the other stuff I can't control. And this is a thing about healing. I have to take a moment to talk about the fact that some of us are healing from some really difficult things that are outside of our control, like abuse, like childhood trauma, like whatever, even financial things that come as a result of the economy or whatever. And so we're so used to being out of control in our own lives that we kind of get into there's fight, there's flight, and then there's fawn or freeze. So we're freezing all the time, not realizing that the ball is in our court, that we actually have the pen in our hand, that we actually have an opportunity to say no if we want to as adults when we couldn't when we were children. That we have an opportunity to say, this is my body, this is my life, this is my heart, this is my daughter, my son, and this is what I choose to do. We have to give ourselves the grace of choice and accountability. It's a beautiful place to be when you are accountable for yourself. If I'm the cause, I'm the cure. If I'm the problem, I'm also the solution. If I'm creating the chaos, I can invite the calm into my life.
This is why I talk about being radically honest. Because once we're radically honest about our role, it's not about the other person. Radical honesty literally gave me the guts to do something. Instead of sitting and saying, oh, this person doesn't do this, they don't treat me this way.
Right.
I set my boundaries, but they don't follow the boundaries. It's like, it's not on them. It's my job to enforce the boundaries. It's my job to have governing decisions. It's my job to define how I want to be treated in a relationship, not just romantically, but in any relationship in my life. It's my job to speak up when that's not being done. And when I'm not doing those things, I am literally just giving my power away. And we are so much more powerful. And like you said, about the childhood stuff. Yeah, there were a lot of things I endured in childhood that I wouldn't wish on anyone else. I wouldn't obviously want my own child to experience. But at this stage, I've also learned that some of the things that became normalized in childhood, as an adult, I can say that's not the type of norm that I desire. That's not the environment that I want to have for my family or for myself. And I get to choose something different. I get to do something different. But that radical honesty for me is where it always starts. And I have to have these conversations with myself daily, girl. Like when I find myself in a little pickle, Patrice, what is your role in this? Because I don't have the power to change anybody else.
Absolutely not.
And I'm definitely not going to sit and wait. I think turning 40, after 40, you like, listen, I'm on this back half and I don't have time to play with y'all. I can't sit here and wait. I have to do, this is what we call at Redefining Wealth, giving God something to bless. And I've learned that we use words like radical and people sometimes think that you have to go, instantly quit the job or you have to leave the house or you have to up and move. No, but there are baby steps. There are 1.0 versions. There are next best steps that we can always take to begin the process of acknowledging that we have choice.
Mhm.
no matter
And
how small.
decision, we discount choice often, but even making a decision before you decide, you are thinking about deciding. Before you actually make a decision to let go, you are milling over it, pining over it, deliberating over it. And then there comes a point where you decide, and that's when everything changes. And so you're right about the radical honesty. I love when it's me at the end of a failure, a plan that didn't work, an issue with someone. I sit and I go, okay, where am I in this? Because that's the first place I want to start, because it's the first thing I can affect. So I love it. Radical honesty.
hmm Since we're kind of talking about how this shows up a bit in relationship too, I
Mhm.
love that one of your habits is daily investigation. And you talk about how to not take things personally, how
Mhm.
that heals our relationship with truth. Can you kind of dig into that a little bit? How do we not take something personally when it is about us?
I love that. When I was writing this chapter, I love my everyone. I don't have a bunch of yes men. There are a bunch of things that didn't make the book, but the things that made it, everyone really connected on. And one of the things my editor said was, what if when it really is personal? Because sometimes it is. And I've been saying over the past couple of years is that sometimes when we shouldn't take it personally, it still hurts. And sometimes it is personal. And when it's personal, I still choose not to internalize it or take it personally, but I do take note. I do put a pin in it. I do tilt my head a little bit and give a little bit of a side eye. I do make a note in my heart, like, okay, we're not safe here. I do make a mental note that I'm not going to have these conversations with this person because they weaponize my vulnerability, right? So sometimes things are personal and people do suck and they're rude and they're condescending and they're shady and they're petty. And even then, it's not about you. It's about the work they are not doing on their own heart. It's about them not going to therapy. It's about them not doing the self-care. It's about them. It still is about them. So even when someone is trying to do whatever it is they think they're going to do to me, I always go, sorry. Sorry for you. Because you must be in a bad way to think you're going to talk to me like that. And we're going to continue in this engagement. You must really not be okay to think that I'm going to just keep saying yes when it's clear to me that my yes is being abused, right? So even when it's not personal, take note.
Yeah, I love the story that you tell too about Shelly and Brooke. Can you share that story? Because I think that's an almost an innocent way that we sometimes take things personally. And it wasn't really about us, even though we were a main character in the scenario. Can you share that story?
That's a good story to highlight because you're right in that there is Shelly, who is the mother-in-law, and there's Brooke, who's the daughter-in-law. And Brooke is having their first child in the family. Her son is married, and Brooke is having their child. And so Shelly's just excited, like everyone else, about being a grandparent, inviting this child into their lives. And she's overshadowing and being overbearing when it comes to preparing for the baby. So, and these are real stories, change of names, but real stories. And so Shelly's like coming to me, expecting me to take her side because she's like, here I am doing all of these things and all this money and all this time. And Brooke was like, no, I don't want you to do that. And the thing about it is Brooke was being so nice. I think I didn't know Brooke. I just know Shelly, but waiting until it just became too much and trying to entertain Shelly. But in that case, Shelly was just doing what she thought was best. She was trying to be a good mother-in-law, a good grandparent, but she was denying Brooke the opportunity to be a good mother and a good wife and do all the things she wanted to do. So to your point, that wasn't an intentional act of harm. That was actually an act of love. And Brooke knew it, but realized she still needed to set a boundary. The problem was Shelly internalized it initially and didn't realize that her actions were actually impacting the family in a negative way. She didn't think about her son, Brooke's mom, the sisters, nobody. She wanted to do everything. So if there is someone in your life who says something that hits you the wrong way, like a mother or a sister, and you know that their heart is pure, but it's still hit, you have every right to set a boundary. You don't have to internalize it and say it's, them trying to hurt you. If you know that they are not hurting you, you can still speak up though. I think that we think if we don't clap back or snap back, then that's not getting our point across. If we internalize it and realize that it's not negative, and sometimes when it is negative, you still don't have to clap back. Note to self. Sometimes when they're doing it and it's hurtful, you still don't have to say it, whatever. I used to tell my daughter, just because you think it doesn't mean you need to say it. Like I said, you might just need to take no. If it's not going to make you feel good to go off, and at the end of the day, which it never makes me feel good anymore, it used to do, but not anymore, you can hold that too. So yeah, sometimes it's not personal. It's just about the other person and what they think and what they want. And even then, we can have these conversations in a loving way.
Yeah. I think sometimes too, we assume that radical honesty means that we have to be rude, or we assume that it can't be received, but we haven't even really been in the practice of sharing with people and understanding that it doesn't have to come with attitude or a tone or any of these things. Now, some people are repeat offenders, and then you just have to deal with that, how you deal with that. But I have learned that for me, radical honesty has been the way, even if it takes me a while to muster up the words or to figure out quite how to deliver it. It's based on the audience. Who am I speaking to? What's the level of relationship that we have? How well do I know them and their intentions? Like there's several things that I kind of go through just to, and it's not that I have to be deliberating about it all day, but I've learned as I'm thinking about this, there's sometimes in business where I just have to be direct, and I use radical honesty, but it's not all flowery because I don't know you like that and I'm paying. So
that's the investigation part. The investigation is what is needed here. Do I need to be aggressive or do I need to be assertive? Do I need to be silent or is this the time to speak up? Do I need to protect my peace with distance or can I repair the relationship with some boundaries? It's all about investigating. What else can this be? And I think that's what Brooke did. In a loving way, she was like, I know she's just not trying to take over my life. So let me just figure out. What ended up happening is they were assigned roles, and that was okay for Shelly. She was responsible for the decorations and the food, and she was able to buy whatever she wanted. They were like, whatever you want to buy the grandbaby, just buy it. And she felt better. It was about investigating.
Oh, so good. So good. Hey, podcast family, big news. I've just launched a game-changing app designed exclusively for you. It is officially the Redefining Wealth app with Patrice Washington. Now, all of my courses, coaching, live streams, and most importantly, my community are just a tap away, all under one roof. You can download the app now for seamless access to exclusive content and a vibrant community of purpose chasers from all over the world. This is the ultimate hub for all things Patrice Washington and all things redefining wealth. You can search for it in your app store or find the link at redefiningwealth.app. That's redefiningwealth.app. Do not miss out. Your journey to redefining wealth just got a whole lot easier. Download the app today and let's take this adventure of redefining wealth for ourselves to the next level together. As we are healing, there inevitably, I believe, will come time for confrontation. And I had a client, Renetta, who made the distinction. She said conversation doesn't always have to equal confrontation, but we will at times have to confront some things. Mm-hmm. So as we are in our healing journey and just acknowledging that there are conversations that need to be had, once we get through that investigative period, what's our next step to making sure we feel safe in even the delivery of this?
Mm-hmm. There's an underlying theme in my entire body of work, and that is identifying our needs so that we are not at a deficit. When we are at a deficit, there's an opportunity for bitterness to come in, resentment to come in, hurt feelings, betrayal. A lot of things can happen when we are at a deficit. So when it comes to setting boundaries, which is another way of what I say, just embracing confrontation, confronting the thing, so that you are not off to the side in bitterness and resentment. It's about, what do I need? I like to approach boundaries differently than everyone else because I don't set a boundary to hurt anyone or to let them know. By the time I'm there, for me, it's distance. I'm out. I'm no contact. A boundary is what I set when I want to continue the conversation or the relationship, right? So it saves it when you set a boundary in the proper way. Patrice, we're friends. I love you, but I'm trying to work things out with my husband. So we're not going to talk about how that is right now. That's a need, a confrontation, a boundary. And because you love me, you're going to be like, okay, sis, I ain't trying to forgive him for what he did. But if y'all trying to work it out, I'm going to support you in that. We can have conversations with people we want to be in community with in a way that is loving. I share how I lead with. I learned this early on. I'm not going to give you the story because you're going to have to get the book. But Patrice is smiling at me. You can't see. My first experience with boundaries was with my grandmom at an early age. And if you got a Black grandmom, my grandmom was from the South. That's a big deal. It really did set the tone for the rest of my life. But it really did change our relationship. If you just say what you need. And the thing is, if I say what I need and it's met with resistance, again, take note. I got all the information that I actually need. And so boundaries saves relationships. Start looking at it in that way, and you can set them with more ease. I love you. And so I don't want to do anything to hurt you. So from now on, let's just keep this conversation out of the equation. Mm-hmm. I want you to come by and I want to be able to prepare a meal for you and to have time. So coming unannounced is not going to work. I can't do that the way I want to when you do that. I want to be at my best. I want to make sure you're cared for. It's about the intention.
Yeah. And I so agree with you. I recently had an acquaintanceship where I just released it. I just decided I had to release it because I had stated the boundary. And the governing decision is, there are some relationships in my life that I want to just keep as friendships. I don't want every relationship in my life to become transactional. I don't want if you're my friend, there are some people I want in my life literally to, let's just be friends. It doesn't have to turn out to us starting a business together or doing a venture together and all this stuff. And it makes me feel sometimes like, oh, were you really my friend, or were you trying to use me for my name, my platform? Because I'm a person that will extend that anyway when it feels aligned. Mm-hmm. But you have to respect that I could love you personally and not feel aligned with you professionally. Mm-hmm. And I had someone that just kept pushing it and kept pushing it. And then it felt like they were gaslighting. And so, like you said, it's like I stated what I needed, what I wanted, what I desired. I said, hey, if I'm not a hell yes, it's a hell no for me, right? Mm-hmm. Like either I'm like all in, or it's just like, no, I don't feel aligned, and it's a no. And they just kept poking and prodding. I'm like, oh, you don't respect boundaries. Like, I see. So for me, it was just like, I'm out. There was not much else to talk about because I felt like I had already confronted the behavior and had a conversation around it. And I see what you're saying. Like, boundaries are to preserve the relationship. It's to keep peace in the relationship. And once we get beyond that, for me, I'm just not going to say it over and over again, because now I'm not living peacefully.
And I think it's also telling. This is something I had to learn about boundaries. It's a suggestion when I say, can you do this? And then they have the opportunity. It really, even when I say, I need you to, or if I tell them what I want them to do, it's always a suggestion because we can't control anyone else. Boundaries are really our responsibility. It's what we'll do. The conversation is often to let you know why I'm not going to answer the door when you call or come, or why I'm not answering the phone as a courtesy. But the boundary is really not answering the phone, and it's on you. Eventually, though, I did this with my grandma. I couldn't talk to her in the morning because she liked to talk about Miss Louise, who's going to surgery and what was on the news. And I'm getting ready to go into sessions with clients and talk about death and divorce. I can't do both those things in the morning. So I told her, let's not talk about that. And she didn't listen. So I stopped answering to my grandma. And then eventually she was like, call me at 12. I answered. I was going to call you earlier, but you don't answer the phone. I didn't even say anything. I just stopped answering the phone. And another thing I think is important to note is that although a conversation is good with someone who is safe and mature enough to have a conversation, but sometimes you don't even have to say anything about the boundary. You just need to do it.
That's the thing. I don't necessarily have to say the things because I think that if we have these governing decisions and standards for our lives, we just enforce them by operating from that place. I can't say I don't like to talk to you about these types of things before I go into a client meeting and then keep answering your phone call 5 minutes before. Well, now I'm crazy. Like now it's me. It's not you. I just have to not engage and not create a story that makes me a bad daughter or it made you a bad granddaughter. We get to protect our energy and our space. And I think that is making space for healing. Like making space for healing is making sure that when I'm not in a place or space where I can receive any type of energy that is just not supportive to my own well-being in this moment, or to my own productivity in this moment, or to my own peace in this moment, that I get to say no.
And I want to say too, like you've read the book, so you know, I actually give you specific daily habits. It's called Habits for Healing because we're not just talking about setting boundaries. We need to identify the actions we need to take to make the boundary a thing in our lives, to make not taking things personal and self-care and all of the other things. And so something as simple, I've done this and I do this still. I have conversations on the way to the grocery store because it takes me 15 minutes to get there. And 15 minutes is what the time I'm allotting for this conversation with you. So I'm able to go, hey, girl, yes, or hey, mom, or whatever, talk for 15 minutes and go, okay, I'm about to go into the store. You know what my grandma would do in 15 minutes? Say everything she wanted to say and then go, okay, well, thanks for listening. She thought I was just the best. I was erecting a boundary, honoring my space, and then also honoring our relationship. And she loved me for it. When you set a boundary and honor it, the people in your life won't always walk out on you. They might commend you. They might honor you for it.
And this goes back to the willing to lose that we talk about. Willing doesn't mean that you will. It is that same process. It doesn't mean that you want to, but it means that I'm willing to release my attachment to these ideas, perceptions, stories, indoctrinations that I've been, passed down.
Right.
That say that if I honor myself, I dishonor you. I'm willing to let that go. I'm willing to lose those ideas. I'm willing to lose the idea that I have to pick up every time you call, no matter how it impacts my day or my peace. And then what can happen is I don't necessarily lose a good quality relationship in my life. We actually have more respect for one another. We actually, get to love on each other in an even better way if the other person is willing to be healthy. And is willing to respect that, whatever that is for you. I love you. I could talk to you all day. I would talk to you all day. But I think that you have done brilliant work. And I love that you talked about, it's not just talking about boundaries. No, there are so many beautiful things that I didn't even see as habits. So the Olympics just passed at the time of this recording. And I've been in this process of what would I give myself, a gold, silver, bronze medal for different parts of my life. And you made me feel like I was on my way to gold. I literally was going through, I was reading the affirmations, but I'm filling out the prompts and everything that you had in here. Again, everything is just written all over, dog-eared, my own little notes. And it affirmed for me that I'm on the right track, especially because you know me as a personal friend. Over these last few years, there has been so much that I have experienced and the grief of so many things. You can be very grateful for choices that you make and still experience the grief of releasing it all and needing to heal so that you don't take any stuff with you. And you normalized what healing could look like on a daily basis. You affirmed some of my own practices. You gave me new practices to consider. You reframed some of these things in ways that make it even more applicable, like for how I could communicate things to Reagan at her age, having not gone through all the things I went through, but being able to ask her questions about how she perceives me and my own healing journey. And you did your thing. You did your thing. I am so grateful for Habits for Healing. I'm grateful for your radical honesty and the work you've done and how you've supported so many people, being a part of just even helping you share this in the world. This is so good. And I know I text you this privately, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I know that you're going to set so many people, women in particular, free. And because of our liberation, we'll be able to free our daughters and our nieces and the young women that we mentor up close and from a distance. Our healing is not just for us. We get to heal things, I think, backward and forward in Habits for Healing and making it a daily opportunity to heal. It doesn't have to be, oh, when I go on vacation in 6 months or when I go here. No, you give us tools to do every day. And I'm proud of you, friend.
Thank you so, so much. I am internalizing it all. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And this is not the end of our healing journey. Just know I'm healing reading this book after writing it. So I just want to affirm your community as they are on their healing journey. You are doing it the right way, even when it feels like it's wrong, when you are doing it, when you are investigating, when you are letting go, you are doing the work, and keep doing the work.
And do it in community if that's safe for you, right? What I love about the Redefining Wealth community is us normalizing these types of conversations. So even if it's not the language that is used in your family or in your sister girl group or for the neighborhood that you come from, being in spaces where we can embrace with you that it may feel awkward to have that conversation, but then we can hold you because many of us have started to have those conversations. And some of us can tell you the good outcomes and some of us will normalize when it doesn't go as intended, but it doesn't mean that we stop our healing process and journey. We still keep going, and being in spaces where that's aligned and safe to do, I have found for myself are really, really, really important and transformative. If I had to do this by myself somewhere alone, child, I'd be in the corner sucking my thumb, Nikia. We wouldn't be at no brunches, no live events, no nothing. I would be alone. And so I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have a platform and to bear witness to your platform where we normalize these conversations. So you know it's not just you. So I love you, friend. Thank you for being here.
I love you too. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yes, you guys pick up your copy of Habits for Healing. It is out this week everywhere books are sold. I'm just going to ask you and put you on the spot.
Okay.
I'm going to ask. I would love to make this our book of the month, like a book club.
Yes.
If we get 100 purpose chasers to buy a copy of Habits for Healing, I think more will buy it, but I'm talking about the ones in the app. If we get 100 purpose chasers, will you do like a Q&A or a little conversation?
I'm there. I'm absolutely there. I can't wait to have the conversation.
You guys, grab your copies of Habits for Healing when you get your book, whether you go in and get a physical book right now or grab an Audible. Listen, post it in the Redefining Wealth app, post it in social media. And I need to feel like we at least got to 100 folks so that I can ask Nikia for her precious time. And we will schedule some time, maybe in the next month. It'll be after Redefining Wealth Live, to see if we could just get together and have a conversation around healing.
When you get the book, we're going to really talk about it.
Ooh, yes, you guys can get some of these good stories. Nikia, I love you. Bless you, my friend. Congratulations on another beautiful project. You guys, this month has been about making the space to heal. And as we kind of shared over and over again, it doesn't mean that you have to go out and do all of these expensive, luxurious things. There are daily habits that will help you in the healing journey. And Nikia lays it all out in Habits for Healing. But we're also going to be sharing lots of tips, continuing to share lots of tips, and all of our conversations this month on the podcast will be focused towards your healing, because I realize that there's no way for us to redefine wealth and start these new beginnings if we don't start to heal some of those old endings, some of that old stuff that we need to process and move through. So I'm grateful for you guys being here. Until next week, I want you to go live your life's purpose, find fulfillment, and earn more without ever chasing money. We'll talk to you later.